I've often said if I wasn't an artist, I was going to be a historian. That's the first thing I've ever found. Look at that. Oh, bloody hell. So here I am, an artist historian, going through the British Museum's collection, looking for clues to the past. I mean, everything in this show for me has a meaning. Clues of looting, clues of trade, clues of colonial domination, but clues which can sometimes be messy and complicated and not simple. If you don't like a good story, this show ain't for you. My name's Hew Locke. I'm an artist. And I've been working on this show with the British Museum, doing research in their archives for a couple of years, working with and talking to curators for this exhibition. What have we here? A question I keep asking myself as well. This exhibition includes some new work of mine, the Watchers. And the Watchers are operating above the whole exhibition, looking down on the exhibition like a Greek chorus. I was born in Edinburgh, grew up in Guyana, and came back to live in the UK when I was 21. I arrived in Guyana as a 5-year-old, just in time for the country becoming independent. So I saw a nation being born, coming out of a colonial period. I saw the flag created. We all sang the new national anthem, Dear Land of Guyana. So formation of nationhood coming out of difficult pasts is something which has always interested me. The way nations create themselves, the symbols they have, the face they depict to the world. And so here I am looking at the British Museum collection from that particular perspective.
So this is a group of drawings by the English artist John White that were made around 1586. So constitute some of England's first sight of America and Indigenous Americans. How did you feel when you first saw these drawings?
First of all, they're very beautiful and very delicate things. They're just really quite spectacular. I've always managed to filter the European classical poses. They come out of an era where you pose your figures as if they were coming straight out of Roman antiquity or out of the Renaissance.
These drawings were made by John White, who was the governor of the colony at Roanoke in Virginia, what's now North Carolina. Although these drawings were not known to so many people, it was the engravings of them published by Theodore de Bry as illustrations to Thomas Harriot's account of the voyage. So his brief and true report of a newfound land of Virginia in 1590, and that was really a kind of publishing sensation. They published it in 4 languages.
But you can see why it would be a publishing sensation, because this is a bit as if somebody had gone on a spaceship to Mars, painted Martians, and brought those paintings back. That's exactly how it would have been viewed.
Completely.
And what people don't talk about well with these images is that they're not just watercolors, they're miniatures. Even the writing, I mean, I couldn't bloody do that writing. That writing is tiny, it's so delicate, it's exquisite.
You're right, the writing is so much part of this drawing. It's almost a kind of quasi-ethnographic document. It's here,
exactly.
The manner of their attire at their solemn feasting. It's an attempt to get down the habits, the customs, the costumes, all of these things which would have been so interesting to the European audience back home.
And what's really interesting to me about one of them in particular is the little girl. And the little girl has obviously been given a European-style doll by one of the settlers. And this is a prized possession, or it's being presented as a prized possession.
Absolutely.
And that's interesting to me.
Exactly.
In a world where Netflix are doing documentaries about the arrival of Black Barbie and stuff like that, it's a change of influence which a simple thing like that will have on a mindset. Completely. Is interesting.
Completely. It's a very expensive kind of European doll, fully dressed.
Exactly,
not
that's not a cheap thing.
No.
It's not cheap cat.
I think it is interesting the way that White has concentrated on a lot of the things that he sees as similar, whether it's religion, the fact that they have religion and therefore a kind of potential for conversion. Well, this is very much, I think, an advert to sort of try and entice people to settle there. They have to present it. You have incredibly ordered villages with the different types of field and crops. A promotional tract for paradise, I think someone has described.
Exactly. It's a pitch.
And I think you can really see that in these drawings here of them fishing, the idea that this is a kind of land of plenty.
It's a land of plenty, come and take over, that's what it is. The whole thing about this show is about debate, it's about dialogue, and it's about in-depth, serious dialogue. Give the museum credit where credit's due. It's a brave thing to do, It's a brave thing to do. I hope people will be moved, but also I expect and actually hope that people will be angry, which is something which I've never thought about before when I'm doing an exhibition, because things are complicated and things are messy, But I also hope that people go, oh, this is be moved by the sheer beauty of some of the objects that I've got on display, and moved by the stories, because some of the stories are quite tragic, and some of them are quite emotional stories. So I hope people will be moved by the exhibition. I grew up surrounded by objects such as this. It's an Amerindian headdress from Guyana. I believe it's YY. And the YY were, when I was growing up, were viewed as the last remaining Amerindian tribal grouping. One memory as a kid, I made a journey into the interior of Guyana by steamboat going up the rivers. And these boats were taking out exotic birds for the exotic bird trade. And that's what this makes me think of as well. And I have memories of early morning, these guys going into these cages full of hundreds and hundreds of macaws, parrots, exotic birds, and just taking out the dead ones and chucking them out into the river. A dark memory, but it's something which stuck with me and has had an impact on me ever since. The themes in the show are varied. They're themes of royalty. They're also themes of colonial violence, of looting, of desire for gold. They're themes around the slave trade, about finance. People may think small brown objects, coins, bit boring. Wrong. Completely wrong. These are completely fascinating. These are 2 copies of the Barbados slave penny. For me, they're extraordinary things.
Absolutely. I mean, naturally, as a numismatist, I'm inclined to entirely agree with you. These are not far from, boring things. I'll grant they are small. So we've got 2 different types here.
Yeah.
Both have the enslaved man wearing the Prince of Wales feathers and the crown.
Yeah.
But then on the reverse, you've got 2 different designs. So one is showing Neptune seated in a chariot being pulled by the hippocampus, the seahorse.
The seahorse, yes.
And then on the side of this coin, a far simpler image just showing a pineapple. In numismatic terms, we probably wouldn't describe these as coins, we would describe them as tokens, because they didn't circulate with official sanction. These weren't commissioned by the governors of Barbados. This was something that was being produced locally, most likely by a plantation owner called Sir Philip Gibbs. What seems to have happened is that Gibbs has gone to a man called John Milton at the Royal Mint, who is an assistant engraver there, and commissioned these to be produced. There seems to be quite a lot struck, in the thousands, and they have been found in what we'd call an archaeological context in Barbados, which suggests that actually
that's interesting.
They did circulate.
They did
used.
circulate. They did use.
Whether they were struck for plantation use or for use across the island, I think is open to debate.
Interesting. It's an image of a black man in profile, He has the 3-feathered crown of the Prince of Wales, and he also, underneath him, is the motto of the Prince of Wales, I serve. I view this as being a really quite cruel joke, because the Prince of Wales is there to serve the people. He's there to serve his masters. He's there to serve the owner, his owner.
I think it's trying to convey, a portrait in the kind of European tradition of portraiture.
Exactly,
Coins,
exactly.
In quite a serious fashion. I know, you describe it as a cruel joke. I don't think that was the intention at the time, but that's how it comes across now.
And that's the thing about how history works sometimes. It may have been intended as one thing in the past, but we read it as something else. But of course, I look at that and I think of Barbados being the first and the testing ground for the slave plantation system in the English-speaking Anglophone world in the Caribbean. I look at that and that symbolizes that to me. It symbolizes power. I control you. This guy is being controlled by his owner.
To take another country in the region, Haiti,
Yeah.
a generation later, they're independent and they produce coins, and Henri Christophe is presented as very much a sort of Western style leader using similar kind of iconographic tropes that you see presented in this coin.
Yes. Only I know that Henri Christophe had power. This guy doesn't have power. There's a plan behind the exhibition for people who don't have a plan, if you see what I mean. I'm encouraging people to randomly drift around the show and make their own path within it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the joys of a museum, is finding things that you didn't intend to find or look at.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it's about, is finding things you didn't intend to, that didn't know were there, or weren't planning to look at, or seeing fresh in a different way,
Yeah, and I think one of the founding principles of this museum was the idea of making connections between things, and that's what we're talking about, that you come in maybe to find one thing, but in the process it leads you to other things, or you find them in the process of trying to encounter the objects.
Exactly. I'm still drifting around, looking for stories, chasing this elusive thing, That's basically what I come here for. As an artist, I come here for inspiration.